Here's my prediction of the whole Terrence Crawford vs Israel Majmov card. I'm pretty good at predicting fights, so I thought, why not make a video on my prediction? If you want to know what game I'm predicting it, search for the Fantasy Boxing League and sign up. No money's involved, and I swear I'm not sponsored by them. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Decision win for Ziyad with 0 knockdowns. Don't need to get into depth with it. Ziyad can't punch through a wood paper bag, and Bullet can't land on a granny if he wanted to. After Cruz's debut, he adjusted his style to fit pro boxing by throwing harder shots rather than amateur point-picking shots. This led him to knocking out Giovanni Strafford and hurting Brian Rodriguez. He does pack some power, but the difference between both results is that Strafford came forward while Rodriguez was going backwards. Cruz is a counterpuncher, and much like most counterpunchers, they aren't as effective against movers. Antonio Moran will lose this because he's tailor-made for Cruz. Moran is a pressure fighter who isn't good at fighting slick fighters, and he's very much susceptible to counterpunches as seen in the fights against Pedraza, Ortiz, and Haney. Barboza was fighting him coming forward, and even he managed to land counters. Cruz will easily exploit his defense with combos and hard shots. I'm predicting a ref stoppage with no knockdowns for Cruz. Anderson gets praised for his defense, which upon looking closely isn't that great. Don't get me wrong, there are things he does that we don't see heavyweights do typically, such as his signature pullback, but he does get caught a lot. He drops his guard when he jabs and gets hit leaning back and sometimes when walking forward. He also has a bad habit of zoning out during fights and getting hit with shots that no fighter with good defense should be getting hit with. These are seen in his Martin fight and even in his most recent fight. Bakole is a fast, hard-hitting counterpuncher. I think his attributes and skills could exploit Anderson's flaws, such as throwing a hook whenever Anderson drops his guard when he jabs. I've seen Bakole fight forward and backwards, so he is prepared for whatever style Anderson chooses to fight in. He also throws a lot of combinations, which I've seen Anderson have troubles against, plus have experience sparring Dubois, AJ, and Usyk. Anderson mostly faced slow fighters with low output, so I have Bakole by decision because his activity will win him rounds and he's looked better in the latter rounds compared to Anderson in my opinion. I also think his power, accuracy, and speed might score a knockdown against Anderson. I'll see a KO win, and honestly won't be shocked if I'm wrong, cause this prediction depends on how big Bakole shows up in and on how good Anderson actually is. David is a fast volume puncher with hard hands and has shown to have good footwork. I don't want to butcher this guy's name, so I'm gonna just call him Rad. Rad has had success against fighters with bad defense and has shown to have trouble facing volume punchers and fighting in the inside due to his defense having holes. All of these are bad news because Morel throws combos, isn't easy to hit, can fight on the inside, and is very fast. Got Morel by mid or late KO with 1 knockdown. Wouldn't be shocked if this goes the distance though. Venezuela has a bad defense that leaves openings for Pitbull's classic hook and especially the overhand due to Jose being a southpaw. Jose is also a pressure fighter, which leads to 2 things. He either fights Cruz head forward and gets hurt, or fights Cruz going backwards for the first time and get hurt. However, Pitbull hasn't looked good against southpaws, so Venezuela still has a chance if that's his kryptonite. To be fair, Cabrera's awkward style probably didn't allow him to get his timing right, or he was just very drained at 135. Either way, to beat Pitbull, you must have good footwork, defense, and a decent power to keep him at bay. To be frank, Rolly was actually winning, but his feet weren't good enough to keep him away from Pitbull for too long. I mean, Jose does have the power and awkward style, but other than a vibrating chin, he will be eating a lot of Pitbull shots, and because he can't outbox nor have good defense, Pitbull wins by knockout with no knockdown. This is a hard fight to predict. Miller is much slower than Ruiz, which allows Ruiz to land his fast combination counters that pack a lot of power. He also can't fight off the back foot, which is good for Ruiz because he's a counterpuncher and has done bad against that style. However, Ruiz has been very inactive, having only fought twice in 4 years with no knockout since 2019, so he might not be as sharp coming into this fight. Ruiz's last 2 fights didn't push his brakes much because his opponents were on the old side of the spectrum, and I see Miller pushing it with his pressure and size. I have Miller by decision with maybe 1 knockdown because both have power. Ruiz have a better shot knocking Miller out early, if not then he'll progressively get tired making Miller win rounds along the way. Miller hasn't knocked out any top competitor, so I'm not sure whether he's actually as strong as his record shows. Madrimov hasn't fought anyone like Crawford nor near his level, but Crawford has fought fighters like him. Madrimov is very aggressive, and I see Bud countering his aggression like he did against Sean Porter, and also see him exploiting his defensive flaws while being too slick to catch. Madrimov still has a chance with the power in his right hand because Bud does get caught a lot when he's looking for the knockout and when he's in the southpaw stance due to his lazy rear guard. That could be a double-edged sword because Bud usually knocks out his opponent when he feels insecure. He knocked out Porter when he was told he was losing the fight, Gamboa rocked him and got knocked out, got dropped against Mean Machine then immediately knocked him out, and when they told him his gloves were busted against Evanesium, he immediately knocked him out. I have Bud by KO with 1 knockdown. This fight could reach the full distance if his power diminishes at 154, but I'm willing to believe that his calculated approach and counter abilities would get the ref to stop the fight. Besides, a year ago from this time of this recording, he knocked out Spence, who's notoriously known to be a big fighter. What are your predictions? Let me know down in the comments below. My name is Ike the Giant Killer. I'm an amateur boxer, boxing fan, YouTuber, and this is my prediction. And until next time, peace.